Thank you, Dr. Manju Bala, madam. And thanks to Association of Environment and Occupational Health Delhi, and especially to the ONGC management, of which you are representing, madam, today. So I thank the President and the Executive Committee members of the Association of Environment and Occupational Delhi, who have conferred this second ONGC oration to me, and I'll be quite happy to say something about the aspects which have been there regarding this COVID, and a lot of things have been spoken since morning about the COVID, how it was being managed by all of us in our respective organizations across India and across the globe. Now the real challenge comes to us now in the form of vaccination, in the form of the after effects of the COVID. So I will try to focus on these issues, and vaccination will be a great challenge for every one of us. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the year 2020 was an inflection point for humanity, industries, businesses and the global economy. But the pandemic did not deter us in India. We rose and stood as one with a proactive and preemptive approach to mitigate the pandemic, strengthening our healthcare infrastructure and thereby successfully responding to this unprecedented crisis. We know that the tough times they doesn't last, but the tough people do. So we in India, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we had been very tough in dealing with the COVID, and that is the reason why we had been able to control the spread of the disease, owing to the resolute leadership which brought every sector together in a collaborative mode. An early lockdown and subsequent phased unlocking, quick identification through testing and tracing, and also the adoption of COVID appropriate behavior by the public helped in keeping the case overload relatively low as compared to the some other countries which did not act with a preemptive plan. COVID-19 pandemic situation in India now is gradually improving as we have been able to control the pandemic. The COVID-19 cases in India, they continue to decline in a steady manner from mid-September 2020, except for the recent surge in the last few weeks because of this movement and people having COVID fatigue. The effect of ongoing pandemic has rippled through the whole healthcare ecosystem. Those who have been critically ill and those who were treated for prolonged periods in intensive care units, they needed a few more months to recover fully despite their completing the treatment of COVID-19. And there is a significant evidence that some people with relatively mild symptoms who were treated at home, they may also have a prolonged sickness even after the beating the infection. COVID-19 is more than an acute disease, so it doesn't matter much that after 10 days if you are in home isolation, you are discharged from the home isolation and you are free from the disease, your COVID is negative, but still after effects of this COVID, they are still in your body, and that will help that will increase your morbidity in some cases. As per the scientific data available, around 10% of the COVID cases they remain unwell beyond 3 weeks, and a smaller proportion for months. Even non-hospitalized patients, they have reported a worsened quality of life in recent certain studies, and 44.1% of cases including symptoms of persistent fatigue, breathlessness, joint pain and the chest pain. So these symptoms are very common in certain studies which they have conducted across the globe. Now we have to understand the basis behind this, because as you all know that there is a viral replication phase in this infection, and second phase is the immune dysregulation phase. Viral replication phase, it is there for 1 to 11 days, and during this the viral replication is there, but after that your virus, it slows down, it dies, and your COVID report is negative. But what happens, this viral debris which is there, so depending upon the viral overload which was there at the start of the infection, lot of immune dysregulation occurs in your body, and this may cause the post-COVID problems. So what happens during this course of incubation, symptomatic, early pulmonary and late pulmonary phase, your oxygen saturation goes down, your viral replication decreases, but your inflammatory response it increases. So this is the inflammatory response in your body which remains there, and it causes lot of after effects of the COVID. Although you are discharged from the hospital, you are discharged from the home isolation, but your fatigue and other things, they still remain with you. So as per the National Institute of Healthcare Excellence guidelines, these are very good guidelines. They define this acute COVID with sign and symptoms of COVID-19 for up to 4 weeks, ongoing symptomatic COVID up to 4 to 12 weeks, and post-COVID syndrome where the sign and symptoms that develop during and after an infection consistent with COVID-19 continue for more than 12 weeks. And this long COVID, in addition to these above clinical definitions, long COVID is commonly used to describe the sign and symptoms that continue or develop after acute COVID. It includes both ongoing symptoms of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 syndrome. So long COVID and post-COVID syndrome, it is a problem across the world. So this is a cause of concern also in India, and we need to be very careful about this long haul syndrome or the post-COVID syndrome. And for the diagnosis of post-COVID-19 syndrome, COVID-19 positive test is not required. As I have already explained that this is a inflammatory phase of the disease and not the viral replication phase, because in virus replication phase only the COVID test will be positive, and even it will be positive even with the dead virus. But if someone is having COVID negative, then they should not think that they are free from the disease and that they might be suffering from the inflammatory phase of the COVID in the form of post-COVID syndrome. So if we see the post-COVID discharge scenario in certain studies, 10% they died within 2 months of the discharge, 20 to 30% they required readmission for patient with severe disease, comorbidities and elderly, and 20% mortality for readmission. So this is a post-COVID scenario. Even after discharge, they have been suffering from the after effects. Even the non-hospitalized patients can leave long COVID with respiratory, musculoskeletal and neuropsychiatric sequelae. So why some people are affected? That is more important. Why long COVID doesn't affect everyone? Why this affects only certain group of people? Because of persistent viremia due to high viral overload or the weak immune response. So whenever a person is having some symptoms which are quite consistent with COVID infection, then they should definitely go for RT-PCR test and to prevent the viral overload. And second, they should develop and strengthen their immunity. So that will help in preventing the long COVID. And relapse or reinfection, now it is also very common, maybe because of the new strains of the virus or because of the weak immune system. And inflammatory and other immune reactions which occur in the body because of the inflammatory phase leads to a lot of chemical changes in the body. Then mental factors such as post-traumatic stress, that is also very important in this post-COVID people. And poor nutrition, especially in low socioeconomic status groups, comorbidities which are there in the COVID diagnosed people, and general deconditioning due to the lack of the physical activity, which leads to rapid deterioration of the muscles, bones and even the mind, especially in the patients who are confined to the bed rest. So this deconditioning reversal is required very much to prevent long COVID. Now who all people are at risk for long COVID? Age, particularly those over age of 50 years, and sex, like being a woman, it more causes the long COVID, because as you all know that while men are at increased risk for severe infection during the viral replication phase, but the women, they seem to be more affected during the by the long COVID after effects because of the changing level of the hormone status. As you know, the ACE2 receptors, They are also present on the various organs which are producing hormones, including thyroid and adrenal glands and ovaries. So it affects these glands, and it reduces or affects the hormone levels in the bodies of the females, and accordingly the long COVID symptoms are more felt in this sex. Obesity, definitely it causes long COVID. Asthma, lot of breathlessness can be there, they are at risk. And having more than 5 symptoms in the first week of COVID-19 infection, that is cough, fatigue, headache, diarrhea, loss of sense of smell, they are the common symptoms. But if more than 5 symptoms are there, then definitely the person will suffer from long COVID morbidity. So these are the symptoms of the long COVID. Even after you are COVID negative, even after you have been discharged from the hospital or from your home isolation, you may suffer from extreme fatigue, long lasting cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, palpitation, muscle weakness, low grade fever, headache, joint pain, needle pricks, pains in arms and legs, loss of taste and smell, sore throat, skin rash, even brain fog, that is inability to concentrate. It can cause memory lapses, mood swings, sleep difficulties, and new onset of diabetes and hypertension because of the hormonal level changes. Now, as industrial physicians, as a clinicians, we have to understand that how to assess this long COVID. So in this case, we have to take a complete history from the symptom onset, current symptoms we have to properly evaluate, and we have to do the thorough clinical examination, including temperature monitoring, heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory system, functional status, and oxygen saturation in the body. Then we have to assess the person for the comorbidities and organ dysfunctions if there are any. Then nutritional history assessment and adequacy of the caloric and protein intake, that is also very much important. Then we have to also assess the social and the financial status of the person, because of this COVID, many people, they have lost their jobs, and they have been doing the things which has reduced their income, and they are now in lower financial gain status now. And the psychological assessment of that particular patient, that is also very important, because there might be the lack of social support and other things are there prevalent in that, they are associated with that particular person. So we need to also do certain laboratory investigations on a periodic basis. We should exclude anemia, because it is one of the commonest cause of breathlessness. So it should be excluded in the breathless patient. Then lymphopenia is also a feature of severe acute COVID-19. This we have to, CBC we have to do for the WBC counts to see whether it is infection or it is inflammatory response. Elevated biomarkers may include C-reactive proteins, procalcitonin to rule out any bacterial infection, then natriuretic peptides to rule out heart failure, ferritin for inflammation and continuing prothrombotic states, and troponin for acute coronary syndrome or myocarditis, and D-dimer levels for thromboembolic disease. Troponin and D-dimer, they can even be false negative. So we have to be very careful in getting this assessment of this patient through clinical examination, thorough history, and laboratory investigations. There are certain complications which are there of these COVID in post-COVID scenario. They can be cardiovascular complications, they can be ventricular dysfunctions, it can lead to thrombosis and clotting in different end organs. It can also lead to neurological sequelae, maybe the brain fogging or other mental disorders and neurological disorders also. So what is required is a multidisciplinary approach for the management of post-COVID patients. We don't have to see that person in isolation. We have to see it from multidisciplinary approach, and in that way only we can concentrate and deal and manage this patient. So multi-system management approach, what it is, we have to treat the comorbidities, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, thyroid or chronic kidney disease. We have to treat them as per the treatment guidelines through maybe through different specialists, involving different specialists. Then treatment related to COVID, whether he is in inflammatory phase, then we have to give the steroids, we have to increase the dose of steroids if required, anticoagulation therapy, anti-fibrotic therapy, or any other treatment which may be required as per the investigation and clinical examination of that patient. Then symptomatic treatment is very important. We have to like anti-inflammatory we have to give for his fever or pain. If he is having lack of sleep, then we have to prescribe him some anxiolytic or some sleep medicine. Then psychological support is very important. Some reassurance from the medical field or from the social support, it should be there. Then nutritional guidance is very important as per the requirement. Then pulmonary rehabilitation is very important, and self monitoring of sugar, oxygen levels and functional status, that has to be done even when they are under home isolation. So we have to manage the symptoms of fatigue through proper nutrition, graded exercises, and the reconditioning program, in which we have to take out the patient from the bed. We have to like Dr. Pandav told, we have to involve him in certain music, certain exercises, yoga and other things, so that some proper reconditioning of this body is there, and he comes out of this post-COVID thing. For fever we can give paracetamol or NSAID. For cough, symptomatic breathing control techniques, PPI or steroid inhaler, whatever may be required, or even nebulization can be required. So we should be having all these gadgets with us if required. Then hypoxia, for hypoxia many patients, they have been discharged with oxygen support, and accordingly they have to be administered oxygen. If the saturation is going down, then we have to increase the oxygen flow. So all these things, they need to be taken care of. Discharge from hospital doesn't mean that you won't require oxygen support for a long time. For joint pain, symptomatic treatment is required, and for breathlessness, breathing exercise and pulmonary rehabilitation will be required. Then we have to manage the psychological symptoms. Mental health and well-being, they have to be enhanced through increased social solidarity, social connection, peer support, informal social support from mutual aids, and psychological symptoms like anxiety, fear, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of anxiolytics, antidepressant, any other drug as per the assessment by the clinician. And cognitive issues can cover with the help of neuropsychologists. So it is a multidisciplinary management of the long COVID. We have to manage the morbidities, as I told you, by these diabetes, hypertension, heart-lung conditions, and the obesity. We have to manage accordingly as per the guidance of the specialists. And persons with comorbidities, they need to be extra vigilant, and they should follow a strict schedule in diet, exercise and medication if any. Then what is important is, in our industries especially, we have to establish clinics for long COVID. So a physical in these clinics we can do some physical assessment, as I told you, then cognitive assessment, physical assessment in the form of diagnostic testing, assessment, clinical examination, proper history taking to identify any chronic health issues. Then cognitive assessment to assess any potential memory, attention and concentration problems. A psychological assessment to see if someone is suffering from potential depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder or some other mental health conditions. And these patients, they should be referred to the designated clinics, some super specialist or specialist clinics, in case they require specialist lung disease services, sleep clinics, cardiac device services or rehabilitation services, or the mental health services. So this is very important, and we have to develop healthy habits among these patients, maintain healthy habits like proper sleep, routine exercises, avoiding alcohol and nicotine. This is very important for the early recovery of this patient. Then we have to engage, meditate and be positive in managing our mental health. That is very important, and for this even some counseling centers can be opened in our townships, or where our townships are there, or at our workplaces also. Then we have to maintain our emotional health, maintain a good emotional health, a sense of contentment and ability to deal with the stress and bounce back from the adversity. So as Dr. Pandav said, we need to be more resilient. External resilience and internal resilience, both of them, they are required. A zest of living and the ability to laugh and have fun, that is very important, and the ability to build and maintain fulfilling the relationships. We have to be very close to our near and dear ones during this period, and a sense of meaning and purpose in both their activities and their relationships, because this will help in taking out these persons from the long COVID morbidities. We have to manage the stress and the anxiety. We have to accept the change. The three most important things for everyone is to adjust, accept the change, and develop patience and be positive about your life. Trust from the reliable sources. Get the facts, not the rumors. Misinformation as facts help to minimize the fears. We have to manage the stress in our organizations. Organize and participate the stress management and programs, wellness and engagement programs. Be empathetic. Just look around and see how empathetic you could be for people around you. We had been empathetic during this whole year. Even we all have paid to our maids, we have paid to our drivers, we have paid to our maid servants, even though they were not physically working for us, but we had paid them, and we need to be empathetic towards them, because this will help in resolving many issues which we are facing as long COVID. Yoga and meditation is very important. I should say yoga and meditation is very important, because it helps to relax your mind. Now we have to take care of others. Today we stand together in this global fight against COVID-19. We have not only to take care of ourselves but others too. Take care of the elders at home and family members with comorbidities, because they are the most vulnerable, and we need not allow them to go into long COVID, and develop better relationship with near and dear ones, staying physically apart but socially connected, and educate and inform others with correct information and help reducing the anxieties of others. Now looking at the Indian perspective, there would be a large burden of such patients in India who may require post-COVID care and rehabilitation. Major issues in India is that this problem is less recognized by clinicians in India, and this may result in higher morbidity and mortality due to post-COVID illness. After recovery, patients remain at risk for lung disease, heart disease, frailty and mental health disorders. There may also be long-term sequelae of adverse events that develop in the course of COVID-19 and its treatment. These complications are likely to place additional medical, psychological and economic burdens on all patients with lower income groups and uninsured and underinsured people also, and individuals experiencing homelessness being most vulnerable, especially in case of migrant workers. Thus, there need to be a comprehensive plan for preventing and managing post-COVID-19 complications to quell their clinical, economic and public health consequences, and to support patients experiencing delayed morbidity and disability as a result. The fight against COVID-19 will extend beyond the immediate infectious period, and efforts to screen for and manage acute disease. People will experience some degree of long-term disability and morbidity as a result of this infection, and this will result in substantial burden on our healthcare system also, not just now but in near future. We have responded to the need to resolve the short-term health policy issues, including affordability and accessibility to COVID-19 and treatment, and now the vaccination, but there is yet to be any serious discussion which need to be devoted to the burden of the long-term complication which will be there of this COVID. Vulnerable patients who develop post-COVID syndromes could place additional burdens on the healthcare system during a time when we are already stressed thin and recovering from the adversities which we have faced during this pandemic. The disability and morbidity associated with COVID-19 complications, particularly if not treated, can lead to decreased productivity, disability and leaving the workforce for the long term, and this may affect the business continuity of many organizations. More research and education are required. It is much needed to better understand, characterize and recognize the post-COVID syndrome in diverse settings and population. This includes developing screening guidelines and as I told you, long COVID clinics in your respective organizations, and continuing medical education courses that would raise awareness among the industrial physicians and promote evidence-based management strategies. Industrial physicians and public health professionals should make patients aware of the potential long-term complications of COVID-19, including suspected and asymptomatic cases, and encourage them to seek medical and mental health care for any condition they may develop during this long COVID. There needs to be a comprehensive plan for preventing and managing post-COVID-19 complications and supporting employees and their families experiencing delayed mobility and disability as a result of long COVID. So this is all about the COVID sequelae, and we have to be very careful in our respective organizations in dealing with this our workforce, because we have seen the employees, they suffered from COVID, then they got they went in isolation, they were discharged from the home isolation or from the hospital, but many of them, they stayed for a long time in ICU, then they stayed for months in at their home, recovering from fatigue, breathlessness, oxygen support and many other things. So accordingly, mental issues, brain fogging, many other things will be there which will reduce the productivity of our employees and our workforce, and definitely this will affect the business continuity and the productivity of the organizations. So as a association, it is our prime responsibility as industrial physicians to take care of the long-term effects of the COVID-19 also. Yes, we have taken care of the immediate things like providing all the healthcare facilities to the infected people, then in the form of vaccination, which our colleagues will be deliberating. Then post-COVID syndrome is very very important, and we should have a proper vision for and as association also, sir, President sir, we would like to have some deliberation on this, so that how we can help our industrial physician in developing some guidelines for post-COVID things. Thank you very much.